Coming up on today's episode.
Interesting the way you say that.
I'm just asking a question here. Oh, I'd watch Tom Hardy look at paint dry.
Exactly.
And it's like, you could watch him drive a car for 85 minutes.
I've gotten more claustrophobic as I've gotten older.
What is it about that?
That's
what is
something
age
we can
have to-
talk about
okay.
another time. But I have had situations that I've had to clean up.
Oh, without question.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm Joe Parente, an actor, a student of life, and a guy who really loves movies and good shows. And then this guy to my right, his name's Ryan. Ryan, tell us a little something about yourself.
Well, I mean, you said it best. I think that that describes me pretty well, too. I'm a student of life and a lover of all things film and TV. And I'm a director here in L.A.
Ooh, okay.
And you do a little something, too, don't you?
You mean the acting thing?
Yeah, something
I
like
think
that.
I already called myself an actor, so I guess that's kind of built
it.
into it. That's okay. So Ryan and I come at this from different angles, from in front of and behind the camera, but we both just share that love of the media
and what we can learn from them.
Exactly.
What they can teach us.
Exactly, because we both think that there's a lot to glean from really good movies and shows. So Ryan and I designated the month of May as the single location movie month, and it just runs off your tongue, doesn't it? So in keeping with our theme today, we are in the new chairs to discuss the 2013 release Locke, which stars a remarkable Tom Hardy and the voices of Olivia Colman, Ruth Wilson, Andrew Scott, and Tom Holland, amongst others.
Wow, I didn't know any of the people that were the voices.
Yeah, I it's an impressive cast.
Yeah.
And it's written and directed by Stephen Knight, who brought us the Spartacus series, which I really love. Did you ever watch any of those?
I watched Spartacus. Yeah, I didn't know that was the same guy.
Yeah, it is the same guy.
Okay.
So speaking of love, if you're seeing us on YouTube, please show us some love by liking and subscribing. And we'll love you back, really. We will.
We promise.
So this is the spoiler-free section of our episode where I'll give a brief review. Don't worry, I'll give you a heads up when the spoiler section is coming. Ryan and I will get into a deeper discussion about the film and some of the themes of it. So, Ryan, I keep thinking how happy I was that this movie was made as I was watching it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Elaborate on that, please.
There were no stunts, no CGI, no violence, no sex, sadly, no swearing even. And yet it kept me fully engaged for the entire hour and 25 minutes that Tom Hardy drove his BMW to London.
So you were engaged.
Interesting the way you say that.
I'm just asking a question here. That's it.
You were engaged. You were engaged.
So were you visually engaged?
Visually engaged. It's not like I would have just turned away and listened to it. It wasn't like a radio show to me. And I loved watching, for me, because I loved watching Tom Hardy because there was a lot going on in this drive that he's making and the telephone calls that he's on. And you're watching his face make very subtle adjustments and also his voice because stress and more stress and more stress and more stress. And he had this he assumed a Welsh accent because he came across a man in life who had a Welsh accent, and he just thought this was the kind of guy who could handle like a lot. You know?
He could balance a lot of
things.
And
I loved his Welsh accent. I thought it was fantastic, but his voice is what really gripped me initially. Like, wow, he's just so calm, so in control. Everything's good.
Unlike his father.
Unlike his father. So he really kept me engaged. So when you say that, look, is it visually stunning or anything? No, they had 3 cameras running the whole time. I'm going to get into how it was shot later on. I guess as a student of acting, I just found Tom Hardy so incredibly engaging.
Yeah.
That's a long way of saying, okay. I was visually engaged.
Okay.
Can I throw that question back at you?
Sure. I'd love to get into it.
So were you visually engaged, Ryan?
No. I was not visually engaged.
I take 3 minutes to answer, and you give one word. I love
It's
it.
worth it. Was this your first time watching?
Yeah.
Okay, I had seen this movie before.
Okay.
And maybe that played a part because I knew that it was entirely shot in the car.
Okay.
And I knew what the visuals already were. So
Okay.
maybe that's why I was disengaged a bit, because I already was aware of it. But to me, this film doesn't like it's, and I'm trying to be as open as I can here, because we love storytellers, we love art.
I already know how many stars you gave it.
And
I can already guess.
I appreciate what somebody's trying to do, and I think this is a great story, and I think it has a great plot, and it has great characters and character moments. It would make a great audiobook. It would make a great book. I'm sure the script is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, a film, what separates it from the other art forms is that there's a visual element, there's audio, there's it's combining a lot of the different elements into one. And to me, this was very visually dull and visually boring.
Fair enough.
Because outside of the times where Tom Hardy was on screen and I could engage in his facial expressions and how he was processing the information, and I thought he did a phenomenal knockout job. He's a ridiculously good actor.
Oh my God.
But outside of that, how many times can you show the gauges? Can you show the street? Can you show I just found myself, I'm up doing laundry.
Oh, wow.
I'm like packing because I'm in the middle of a move.
Okay.
Like I completely could disengage from the visuals because there was nothing there.
Got it.
Outside. And that's just my personal opinion, but I'm surprised this movie got made. Very.
I can understand that.
And
Being
it's an
surprised
A24
by-
nonetheless.
Yeah.
An early A24.
I think also the fact that look at the stars who signed on to this.
Yeah,
I mean,
no kidding.
Clearly they believed in the vision, and I love the execution. I also, like I was saying, this is our single location month of May theme, and this was truly the boy, talk about a single location, because the Breakfast Club took place in the high school. It wasn't just like in the library.
Yeah.
Even the Tarantino movie, that's a pretty big room, The Hateful Eight.
And they're on the road before
And they're on the road,
and
so you were outside. None of them have been as singular a location as this, as a
Totally.
man behind the wheel.
Yeah, that's it.
So let me just give a really brief overview for anyone who hasn't seen it of what Ryan and I are talking about, or just what goes down. This is it's a movie showing a man driving to London while taking and making phone calls along the way, Yet it's about a man's life unraveling as he's trying to right a wrong that he's made, while also attempting to break a family chain, a family pattern that he himself has continued. And in that sense, it's psychologically fascinating.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And that's why I said, I think it's worth noting. I think we like to start off these things by, or at least I do, listing what I did like.
Yeah.
And the writing is phenomenal.
Yep.
Absolutely phenomenal. This character study of this person who is trying to, like you said, break family pattern.
Yep.
And successful, but also failing at the same time. It's just very complex. He's a very complex character.
Yeah.
And I think that lends itself to a very interesting story that you're engaged in. And so many things are going on. Like you didn't even mention that he's on the eve of pouring the concrete.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Of the biggest,
I'm still going to get there.
of the biggest ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So
building.
So I'll give just a little bit more background, and then we can dive into a little bit more detail. So Ivan Locke, who Tom Hardy plays, is what we from what we can glean from the movie, he's like the Tom Brady of construction. I mean, this guy is just on top of his game. Construction management, I should say. He's smart, calm, organized, and driven. He takes pride in his work. He's a father of 2 teenage boys, both living at home. And it sounds like they're pretty close, like he and his boys. He tells his wife, voiced by Ruth Wilson, that he loves her over the phone. He seems to mean it. That was one of the things I really liked about staying on someone's face, is you see him when they're on the phone and we're off the phone, and you could see how it was hitting him. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really beautiful. But she's not feeling the love right now in the slice of his life that we see, because, well, she's not very pleased with him for some decisions he's made.
Yeah.
I won't say why Ivan is driving down to London right after work, because I think that gives too much away in the non-spoiler section. Mm-hmm. But I will say that Ivan is making and receiving a lot of calls. I noticed, I think the longest gap without him speaking was about 20 seconds.
Yeah, and that's so crazy because he never had a chance to breathe. He never had a chance to process. Nope. He never had a chance to reflect.
And this takes place in real time. So the movie's an hour 25, and that's an hour and 25 of his drive.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it is absolutely...
Yeah, every time he gets off the phone, the phone rings.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's not...
Or he makes a call. Yeah.
And none of these calls are really calls that he is excited to receive.
None of them are light and airy. None of them are, hey, how's it going?
That's a better way to put it.
All of them are really weighty. Yeah, I didn't count how many calls, but I would guess there were 20 plus.
At least.
And he talks to, a pretty decent array of people in that short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And so to watch this actor change how he speaks to every single one of these people, to me, was fascinating.
Yeah,
again,
totally.
And can't wait till we get into a little bit more detail about all this. So I thought it was just really impressive storytelling.
Totally agree.
And I agree with what you said about the visuals too, but I was really engaged.
Yeah.
And I thought the performances were so solid from everyone. You might hear what Ryan and I are saying and thinking, how on earth can watching a guy drive and make calls a good way to spend 85 minutes, And before seeing this, I would have agreed that that's a tall order, but to me, it really does deliver. And one major reason for that, again, is Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I mean, the guy just... It's funny, we always say, like, we'll say these sayings of like, oh, I'd watch Tom Hardy look at paint dry.
Exactly.
And it's like, you could watch him drive a car for 85 minutes.
And when you think about
it, he's phenomenal.
And he is phenomenal. And when you think about, this is the same Tom Hardy who's played really frightening people, who's been, in the Batman movies.
Yeah, Bane.
And I mean, he's just right. It's Bane. He just, it's remarkable, his versatility.
Oh.
And again, the use of voice and tone, so important in this, particularly because you're watching a man who's on the phone. He's not talking to someone face to face. So there isn't going to be the benefit of facial expression or movement. Everything has to be done through the voice. And that's part of what makes the execution of this from all the actors so entirely spot on.
100%. It kind of largely relies on what you're saying, the voice and the pitch, and
exactly.
Watching him, I don't think it's a spoiler that he's like sick as well throughout it.
Yeah.
And the way that it's the nuances, it's the subtleties.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an example of subtle acting.
Yeah, very.
And he just crushes it.
He does crush it.
Yeah.
This was I thought it was amazing, and I'm really excited to talk about how it was filmed when we get a little bit farther along here. Not too much.
I'm curious to hear it.
Yeah. One thing that I want to note about this single location, about just being in the car, I never felt claustrophobic watching it. Did you?
No, I don't think I felt claustrophobic. Why do you think that is? Like, what was it about it for you?
I don't know, because small spaces or watching somebody in a car, if you told me that, I want to make this point because I do get claustrophobic. There's a movie that Ryan and I are going to be talking about after this, and there are a few scenes where I was like,
Yeah,
taking
yeah. And I think
deep
it was
breaths.
meant to.
Yeah, and it
That was
has
the
that effect
intention.
on me. I've
Yeah.
gotten more claustrophobic as I've gotten older. When I was a kid, you could put me in any tight space. And as I've gotten older, tight spaces freak me out.
What is it about that? What
That's
does
something
age
we can
have to-
talk about
Okay.
another time. And
Okay.
I don't know why, but it's just progressed. And it's gotten...
Interesting,
So
okay.
now watching people in tight spots just on movies, it's like, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And this did not have that effect on me. And that didn't hit me until almost the end of the movie where I thought, we just watched a guy in the car, from 2 feet away from his face for an hour and 25, and I'm okay.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point to make. I never felt claustrophobic at all. And maybe they did. I feel like, listen, I know what I said about the visuals. I do think they tried to make it as dynamic as possible. I mean, I love...
For nighttime, yes.
Totally. I loved and we'll get into it later, but the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved
Oh
it
my
in
God.
employing that as a device in this. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I
And
thought
that
so
that was
too.
my favorite part of this story and of this film, was that whole element, if
Yeah.
you want to say, of
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
I think maybe they tried to be as dynamic as possible. Had it been like just interior shots, then who knows? Maybe it could have ended up being
Yeah.
claustrophobic. But
For
I think they
sure.
did a well enough job to keep us outside of
I
it.
think so too. And another important point for me is that everyone in this is just very human, very believable.
Totally.
It didn't feel like characters. It felt just, like real human beings.
Authentic. Like, this is how people would react
Yeah. Yeah.
in this kind of scenario.
Yeah. So
And well, we'll get into specifics later. I don't want to say anything yet.
we're almost going to get there.
Perfect.
And I had a bunch of questions, but I think I already know the answers. So I think we've already gotten into that. So why don't we see if our stars align?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I already know what I gave this, so I don't
So
need to
I'm
look.
going to guess what yours is.
Okay.
You gave it 2.5.
I gave it 2.
Whoa.
I think actually, yeah. Let me double check that. Let me make sure I'm not, being an
Okay.
asshole for asshole's sake here. Let me make sure I gave it a, and I think you gave it. Ooh, that's tough. 3.5.
I did. You're correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that feels right for you
Yeah.
based on what I know. Yeah, I did give it 2 stars. Okay,
Okay.
making sure.
Yeah.
What did you give it?
Yeah.
That makes sense
Yeah.
based on what the vibe I caught
Yeah.
from it. Why
Yeah.
not higher?
Because of it's funny, what I liked about it also I felt very limiting, because I would have liked to have seen, now that you're saying that, I would have liked to have seen more. I think that they did the most they could within the parameters that they set for themselves.
Totally.
And that's where to me, it was almost like I gave it the maximum that I felt I could for that kind of a movie.
That makes total sense. And I think I would have rated it higher, but I have a hard time discounting the fact that as a film, I think the visual is such an important aspect of telling a story. And I just felt that this was visually dull. And visually, I was bored visually. I was not bored audibly. Not at all, in
Right.
the least bit. I'm telling you, if this was a audiobook, you'd have to pull the car over. Like, you'd be way too into it. It is a fascinating story.
It is a fascinating
It is
story.
the writing is just superb,
Yes.
and the performances are great. But visually, like I said, I was packing and doing laundry. I found myself, well, there's nothing for me to look at. How many times can I see his hands on the wheel or
Interesting.
the side of the car?
I wonder if, because look, visuals are important to me too. And I just, kind of contradicting myself, said that I gave it 3.5 stars for how limited it was in certain ways. But also, I think maybe you're a filmmaker, and so you're looking at things holistically, and you're thinking about visuals a lot. And I was so focused on Tom Hardy, he was all the visual I needed.
You're an actor.
In a way, exactly. And so it makes sense to me that we're seeing these things the
From
way
a
that we're
different
seeing them.
perspective. Totally. Absolutely.
because what you're saying makes complete sense to me. And again, I agreed to the extent that I did not give it 5 stars, probably for that.
And I agree with what you're saying 100%, that Tom Hardy was just absolutely phenomenal, and I couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense why we're seeing things the way that we are. Everybody's different, and art is subjective, and
yeah, exactly.
you're coming to it you're looking at it through a different lens, and and most everyone will.
Yeah, for sure.
They've lived a different life, and they'll come to it with a different appreciation of it.
I hope so. I mean, I hope people watch this movie. I don't know that many did, but I really enjoyed it. So,
what was the year? What year?
2012, I believe.
2012. Okay, I wonder how early in A24's 2013. I wonder how early in A24's like Rolodex
That
this
I do
is.
not know.
Because
I bet that answer will come to us eventually.
They were known, I think, early on, and they still do, but they're known for like taking chances.
Well,
and this was a big chance. You've got Stephen Knight, you've got Spartacus, so I think like he comes with a lot of
cred.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally believable, and the script is absolutely phenomenal.
And then say somebody comes to you, your agent comes to you and says, "Hey, there's this kind of specialty type of film from A24, and Tom Hardy signed on." You're going to say no?
Yeah, of course. Right.
So let me throw out some fun facts about this movie that I thought were really cool. So first one, this movie was shot over 6 nights.
Okay.
And
what was the budget on this?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that. And in my head, I was like, I always check the budget, and I don't think I checked it this time.
We'll have to see what the what
God,
the
that was in the back of my head. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't learn the budget. Year one of A24. Okay, so this is one of A24's first releases.
I love
that.
Ever. Interesting.
So this movie was shot like a play. So they'd run it all the way through like Adolescence. So they do 2 shots per night, and they did that over 6 nights.
So they just did the car. Was this an actual drive?
Yes, it was. He was on a trailer, and it was on a section of highway near London that was closed. It was like a circle, a loop. And so he was, but at the same time, this was one of the things that confused me because it said it was on a trailer. But do you remember when every now and again you have a call, or like a recording would say you have a call? It was actually that the BMW was letting him know that fuel was low, so their sound would come on, and they'd cover it up with that audio of you have an incoming call. And the sound of the low fuel kept frustrating Hardy. And so they kept some of those shots of him getting frustrated by that sound because it would interrupt his performance.
That makes total sense.
And they had to dub it over.
Sure.
I thought that was kind of interesting. So they would just do,
God, you would think that'd be something that they would figure out before shooting. But
well, who knows? And maybe that was the first. Maybe that was the first. I think Stephen Knight liked it. He liked seeing Hardy's frustration and how he took it and kind of used it.
Because that's how you would react if you didn't have a second to breathe and you kept getting calls and people are breathing down your neck.
Well, and that this is being shot in one long continuous take. You can't go, can we start over again?
Yeah,
because what if you're 45 minutes in? You can't.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty darn cool.
Interesting. Okay.
So each night they would take two takes, and the best segments were then chosen and edited together to give it a live, unbroken feel. And so this meant that Tom Hardy stayed emotionally immersed for at least 3 hours continuously.
Gosh. That is crazy.
Because they just do one after the other. They'd finish and they'd start the next one.
Oof. Man, wow.
So talk about he had to be, in the zone. So
yeah, no kidding. I mean, to be, and in a loop too.
Yeah.
If you're saying it's just like one strip of road.
I think it was probably a huge loop because I watched to see, are they turning? No, I kept seeing lights straight. So I thought, that's interesting. So
and
I don't know.
They just went and caught B-roll.
Perhaps.
And had that.
Perhaps.
Put in of the car. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's an interesting way to shoot it. I guess it adds to the fluidity of it. Because I never felt like, it did feel like it was one continuous night.
Yeah, for sure.
I never felt like we were cutting together sequences. Like they did a good job of maintaining that continuity.
They really did. Also, they had those little segments where they just play the music. and they'd like give everybody a breather.
Yeah.
They were like 10, 15 seconds long.
Sure.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Take a break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was well done.
Absolutely.
Second fun fact, all the phone conversations were performed live with each actor actually phoning in.
Whoa.
So the actors were all calling from a hotel room.
Wow.
So you hear it as it's actually coming in. And, Tom Hardy has to know, okay, it's this son who's going to be calling me. And
Whoa.
yeah. So pretty cool. And then they just did it. And so
That's fascinating.
I love that.
Then it adds so much to the performance.
Doesn't it?
And it adds so much to what Tom Hardy has to work with.
Yeah.
He's not working with a pre-recorded, because that would eliminate like we took a Meisner class. Like that eliminates you being able to work off
That's right.
the other person's energy and what they're feeding you.
That's
if
right.
you're just working off a already pre-recorded
Right.
performance,
Right.
that can really, I can imagine, dull down the response.
Totally. Because, he's working with some really, really good actors, and how they worked off of each other in these phone calls was absolutely fantastic.
Totally, 100%.
I was just really taken by that.
I wonder if they met beforehand and like established a rapport prior to filming, like his co-stars, or I wonder if he kept them separate.
Great question.
Like, did he have time to get to know them, to establish a relationship, and then go into the car? And when they're calling, he kind of already has this is Tom Holland or whoever it is.
Great question, because particularly with the Tom Holland character, to me, sounded like the younger brother.
Okay.
And to me, I really did like their rapport, particularly when his son calls back. Actually, let me just do this. Let me say, we are now going to get into spoiler territory. Okay.
Perfect.
So we're going to get in a little bit more detail here, but I just want to talk about that phone call. And to answer the budget question from earlier, is a $2 million budget.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I think a lot of that probably went into salaries. I don't know.
Yeah, or the rig that they had to put together on this car,
true.
I imagine
that could be.
was pretty expensive.
But I don't know if you probably remember the phone call with his son after the game had ended, and he's wondering what's going on with mom, and he's wondering if dad's going to come home. And it was a very somber, but his son is really just going through what happened in the soccer game. And, the player that scored, is and
Kind of a dunce.
Yeah. And it was they're talking about soccer, but they're not. I thought it was very moving.
Yeah. Are you talking about the last phone call?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't love that.
With his son?
I loved.
Oh, I don't think it was the last phone call.
Because he has the last one he has is with the. No. Prior to the baby.
Oh, okay. Could be. You didn't like that because what? Because they're not actually talking about anything.
No, I just felt like he was like, oh, you're just going to come home and then we're going to go back to normal and mom's going to be okay. That's kind of what the phone call was about. And I'm kind of like, no, this guy's like an asshole. And he has to like,
oh,
mom's very right to feel the way she does. And she is allowed to. Like, it kind of felt like the son was kind of like, well, I'm on your side, Dad, so just come back and it'll all go back to normal.
I hear you, because I didn't believe that it was all going to go back to normal. I didn't believe it was going to be okay. I thought that was just him trying to manage the situation again and trying to set, in this sense, against his own credo, maybe unrealistic expectations with his son. But I think maybe after an hour and a half of all those phone calls and going where he was going, maybe that's all he had in his tank. I don't know. Because I can appreciate what you're saying.
That's fair. And I think, too, if I'm thinking about it a little bit deeper here, like the kid saying those things seems how a kid might feel in that scenario. Like that checks out to how I would have reacted at that age to that too. I'm not going to be like, well, Dad, you messed up and now you know what I mean? You're not
he still
really,
doesn't know what happened either.
Right. You're not processing something like that at that age.
Right. That's
most likely.
exactly.
So it makes sense given what, so I kind of take back some of that. I was a little harsh there on that delivery, but seeing it from a different angle, I think it does make sense that he reacted the way that he did.
Yeah. Yeah. I just...
How did you feel about the ending?
Not good. I guess that's part of why 3.5. I guess not good in the sense that, okay, here's where I give the movie credit. I really, what's going to happen next? I really want to know what's going to happen next.
Sure.
And so in that sense, that's really good storytelling. But to hear the baby crying, and he had already pulled over, and I was like, what's he going to do? You know?
Is he going to go there? Or
is he going to go there
around?
or not? And I still wondered, I think, even though he was driving off, he wasn't like, he was in a weird area. And it's
it wasn't clear. Like, he's not like you could see the hospital and he's like
exactly.
almost there.
No.
He had gotten off the exit.
Yeah.
And you assume that he's nearby.
But it didn't look like it. And
well, it wasn't clear.
No.
And then so it's true. You're left wondering, which I guess, is good storytelling because we want to know what happens.
It is absolutely. And does he look happy to go where he's going? No. But he made his bed that he's about to lay in. So.
I mean, he seemed happy that the baby was born and was healthy.
Yeah,
and
he did.
He did. She was healthy too. I mean, she was talking to him.
That's true.
Because the birth wasn't exactly the most.
No, she had to have a cesarean. So, yeah.
But yeah, I was left a little disappointed because I didn't get. Yeah, there was no closure.
There wasn't. It was a ... kind of ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that was the point.
Could be. This was amazing because he starts off this drive, and Ryan, within the first 5 minutes, I was stressed, man. Because people on the phone are like, "What are you doing, Ivan? Where are you going? What? Wait, we have the biggest pour of cement
in the history of Europe.
In the history of Europe, and you're driving to London, like you are the man, and you're going to get fired for this," and he does.
Yeah,
and he's going to lose his marriage, and
the guy that he's put in charge is a drunk.
Donald has been hitting the bottle, and
he took the folder with him.
He took.
It was just everything that could go wrong is going wrong.
Yeah, and so, but he's made a decision. So he has slept with this woman because he felt sorry for her. Like, dude, gets her pregnant. And he's explaining to his wife, who's saying, no, if this happens once, this happens many times. This isn't just a one, because he's trying to convince her this is a one-time thing.
I loved what she said. She was like, the difference between never and one is everything.
Is everything. Yeah, that was Ruth Wilson. She was so good.
So phenomenal.
And she had very good points. And this was so out of character for him.
Yeah, she's like, I don't recognize you.
Right, exactly. And you could feel her anguish.
Oh.
She's like, I'm sitting here in our bedroom. I'm sitting in the dark, and I can't believe it's you. It's not you. I can't believe it's you with what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And then from the people from work, they're like, I've known you for 10 years. You are rock solid. What the fuck?
You've never even been late before.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just abandoning.
The biggest historic pour of cement in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean... And he is the man.
Yeah, and there was a real through line in this that was kind of like a B story of like his dedication to his work.
Yeah.
And how that was bridging a gap because she said, which I liked this line, she kept saying like, I'm not going to have to clean up your concrete anymore.
Yeah, when he walks through the house with concrete on his boots.
Yeah.
His father clearly left him. This is the backseat technique that, or rear view technique that Ryan was referring to earlier. He's talking.
Brilliant.
It was brilliant. In between phone calls, he talks to his dead father, he looks in the backseat as if he's sitting in the back, and there's no one there. And we know he's not losing his mind or anything, but he's talking out loud to his deadbeat, drunken father who abandoned him and his mother. And he is not going to be that guy. He already wasn't that guy. He's got a wife and 2 kids. To do this was just dumb. Is probably, I mean...
It's a mistake.
It's a huge mistake.
A huge mistake, a life-altering. I think in one of the later phone calls, he says, well, in a matter of the last 30 minutes, I've lost my life, my job, my family, like all these things.
Exactly. And we watched that happen.
We watched that happen over
this drive and over these phone calls.
But I did think that the most engaging, the most fascinating part about this and the most brilliant part was the interactions he was having with his father that was in the back seat. I just thought the first time I saw, I mean, and this time too, when he first started doing it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is fascinating. I love this.
Yeah.
And the way he kind of was like, see, this is how you handle a situation. You face it. You own up to it.
Exactly.
Which was also a little bit contradictory because he waited until the absolute last second to own up to anything.
Right.
I mean, how long is his wife said, we made love that night.
Right.
I remember that night.
Yeah, you came home with a big smile on your face.
Came home with a big smile on your face, and then we...
And he's like, it's because of the poor. She's like, no. It wasn't because of the poor, the poor of the concrete. Because she looked in her journal in between these phone calls. What Ryan's talking about was in between phone calls, she looked back in her journal, and she remembered that night. You were so happy. He's like, I was happy because of the poor. No. That's not why you were happy. Oh, and you can see him after the phone call. I really did believe him. I did believe that he really... Because as he's explaining it to his dad. That's when he said, I felt sorry for her, and he knows he made a phenomenal mistake, and he's going to try to do his best to right this wrong.
Like, I'm not going to abandon this child.
But he already didn't abandon 2 children already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. This is
talk about an own goal.
I mean, just dude,
massive unforced error,
and waiting again until
the last moment.
Now you have to lie to work, and you're going to lose your job.
That's right.
You're the night of the biggest poor in the history of Europe.
Right.
You're abandoning.
Yeah.
All because you waited. You couldn't. It's almost like the movie is telling us that he is like I was kind of on his side. I was kind of rooting for him as our protagonist, despite what he had done, just because he was so honest and so genuine about it, and so opposite of what his father had done. He was like, I'm owning up to my mistakes. I'm gonna go drive and be there for this woman who is scared and who is alone, and I'm gonna tell my wife, and I'm gonna face the consequences. But then a part of me in the back of my mind is going, yeah, but you waited until... Like, you didn't have to do this.
Right.
And it's just movie magic. It wouldn't have been what it was without him waiting until the last second. But
and to give him the slightest bit of credit, of which he doesn't deserve, this is just because her water broke 2 months early. And so it was, but he was probably going to wait.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. So she was couple months early. So this is a premature birth.
And she was an older.
You had the impression that she was in her 40s, maybe early 40s.
He said, I think she's like 43.
Yeah.
He said on like one of the phone calls.
Yeah. So this was like her, as he put it was her only shot at happiness. Oh, and how about when she's telling him she loves him?
I know. And he can't say it back.
Hurt. Because they've only met once. And he wouldn't say it. And she's like, can't you even say it just to say it? And he's like, no, I can't.
And again, those are moments where I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah, because he does have
integrity.
He does have integrity.
He just let it slip for...
He did. And he even wondered to his dad about if there's something in my DNA that I got from you, that he got himself into this particular situation. And I was wondering, why did you sabotage yourself like that? Because, look, being an adult and as responsible as he is and everything else, at least you use birth control, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, something, man.
Something.
Yeah.
Something to mitigate this particular situation.
Yeah, but it's movie magic and we need it to happen. Otherwise, this movie doesn't exist.
That's true. If he'd been so responsible, this wouldn't have happened.
I wonder where this idea came from. Like, I'd love to rack Steven's brain and figure out what
I wish I knew that too.
This kind of...
So I guess, it does. This movie brought up a lot of questions for me, but
please.
I'm just wondering, like, have you ever had to make a decision or stand by something that you knew other things were going to be sacrificed because of it?
Can you elaborate there? What do you mean by that?
Well, this guy put himself into such a pickle, and he decided to draw, like, I am going to be there, because he didn't have to be there for the birth of this child.
That's true. And he didn't make it.
And he didn't make it. True. but he's going to go and he's going to do the right thing. He could have told the woman, I'm sorry, that was a one night stand. I can't do it. I've got my wife. I've got my, I can't do it. I'm sorry.
And that's part of why I know it's a broken record, but that's why this writing was so good. And this was such an infinitely complex character, because even you just saying that, it's like, how do you read this guy?
Yeah.
Because he seems like he is a really stand-up guy.
Yep.
He's a good family man. He's a heck of a hard worker.
Yep.
He's got a lot of integrity. He's breaking the chain of his...
yes and no.
But then you've got this fatal error. So
Yes.
I'm going, would this guy that is this wise and this, robust, would he make a mistake like this? Would he make a fatal error like this? Would he risk all of it?
That's why
It's frustrating as
it
hell.
is frustrating, and because he's repeating the sins of his father, and it at a time when it looks like he already has gone way past that. That's way in the rear view, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And he chose such an unusual circumstance, but and you could tell he wasn't trying to making excuses to his wife. He was owning it completely.
Yeah.
He was being straight and honest with the woman having his baby.
Yeah. Again, that makes me root for him.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
makes me like this guy and want him to be okay and want him to succeed.
Exactly.
But then my brain is confused because I'm going, man, what a stupid mistake. And one that cost him literally everything. Or
it did.
There is to this. There's a deeper layer here where his integrity cost him.
It did
everything, because like you're saying, he didn't have to go.
Right? No, he didn't.
He didn't have to say anything. He didn't have to. He could have just done the pour, put his phone on silent. You know what I mean? And just never, and it would have blown by.
But and we could tell for him it wouldn't have blown by.
Right? He would have always had in the back of his head.
I did the same thing my dad did.
Yeah, it's good writing.
It's really
fantastic
good
writing.
Yeah.
To come back to your question, I'm not too sure. Do you have something in your life that you can?
What I thought about wasn't necessarily just the cost like that, but I have had situations that I've had to clean up.
Oh, without question.
Yeah,
for sure.
So did it make you think about like personal cleanups you've done, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it did on a number of different levels. And hey, that's what, like we say, art does at its best.
Exactly.
Right? It makes you think about your own life.
Yeah.
And you're like looking into a mirror.
Yeah.
And I've been unfaithful.
Yeah, me too.
And
not proud of that at all.
Not proud of that at all. And I've faced the consequences of that.
Yep, me too.
I've had to come clean.
Yeah.
And it's not a fun place to be, and it's not worth it.
It isn't worth it. And you and I unfortunately had to be those guys who had to learn it firsthand, the hard way.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who are a lot smarter than we are go, oh, that sounds horrible. I don't think I'll do that.
Right, exactly, yeah. If only we were like that for everyone.
I know,
yeah.
Exactly.
Totally.
So yeah, it just brought up for me that the memories of cleaning things up, and you do learn from that. And
totally.
And those are mistakes that I certainly won't repeat, and you won't either.
100%.
And I don't think Ivan will either. I think this is a one-time mistake for Ivan.
Boy, and it might be, yeah. I don't know where he goes from there.
I don't either. I don't either.
I don't know where, because she said, "You're not welcome in this house."
That's
anymore.
right.
Don't
That's
come
right.
back.
She was very clear.
And he's gonna have to face the kids.
Yeah. Hey, to be married to a guy like that, I love how strong and clear she was. These are two very clear, strong people with a lot of integrity. So
Totally.
she's not going to say, oh, you made a mistake. I get it. She's like, no, buddy. I mean, who knows what's going to happen from there, because he did have a long track record of being a particular way, which made this all the more egregious because there were no signs.
Yeah, because that's
like
why
this
she's
was
going
happen.
like,
exactly.
I have no idea who you are right now.
Yeah.
I don't recognize you.
Whew.
The pain, I can't even imagine what she was going through.
And I love how in some phone calls just click. I love how she just hung up on him sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then she called him back.
Yeah, she did.
I was like, I've talked to my sisters.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, let's talk about this.
Yeah, can we talk about practical next steps?
Yes, which makes so much sense for his character because he's a construction management.
We can fix this.
He runs on practicality.
Yeah,
he runs on fixing problems.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all that's happening with the construction. It's like, we didn't get the road closures. He is the guy.
He is the guy who can
solid.
think quickly and can think creatively and make it happen. In this particular situation,
he can't.
Concrete won't fix this one. Just fix it. So I have some recommendations. Awesome.
Okay.
I appreciate your input on that
Of course.
stuff. So if you liked Locke, or Locke sounds interesting to you, the first recommendation I have is Phone Booth, starring Colin Farrell and Kiefer Sutherland. This is also single location and unfolds in real time over one night. And it's even more intense than Locke, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot more at stake.
A lot more at stake, and you can write that on Prime Video. The second one, oh man, I love this one too. Run Lola Run, starring Franca Potente. Did you ever see it?
I never heard of Run Lola Run.
It's so good. It's fast-paced, character-driven, and also takes place over one night. As a running Lola attempts to change her fate. Can she do it? Well, check it out on Prime Video.
You sold it well.
The third is Before Sunset, starring Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy.
Classic.
Yeah, it takes place in real time and has great human moving conversations. They have spectacular chemistry, I think, in both those movies. Three of them?
There's three,
all three.
Yeah.
That's right.
Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, and before... Ooh, I don't know what the other
We're
one
old as hell. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I love Richard Linklater too.
Totally.
He is fantastic. So see Boyhood too, which has nothing to do with Locke or any of the other recommendations, but it's just an awesome Richard Linklater film.
Yes, yeah, I concur.
That was so
one of my
good.
favorites.
My fourth recommendation is
Before Midnight.
Before Midnight, that's right.
Yep.
Because the other recommendation I have is Before Sunset.
I love it.
Because it's just so freaking good.
Yeah.
And it's the precursor to Before Sunset. It's the precursor to Before Sunrise. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
I wrote that wrong. So yeah, you got to see those. That one takes place. Well, they meet on a train. It's the reason I recommended these.
I think
it is the other way around. Yeah.
Yes.
It's the other way around. Sorry. I know I made that really confusing.
These could be confusing.
Sorry.
Is it before what? Before sunrise, sunset, midnight?
I know one was before the other.
Yeah, totally. And one takes place like a lot later, right? They did it like 10 years later.
Years.
So it goes sunrise,
before
sunset, midnight.
Before midnight.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And the last one I'll recommend, which I haven't seen yet, is called Mass, starring Jason Isaacs and Martha Plimpton. The parents of a shooter and the parents of a victim meet and talk.
Whoa.
Intense. They sit at a table and hash it out. And
I like Jason Isaacs.
Me too. That's part of what intrigued me about this.
I might
think
check that out.
Is really impressive.
Okay.
And you can find that on Prime Video.
Cool.
Yeah. So just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time.
Peace.